They were the men who enlisted in overwhelming numbers. More than 1,000 African-American soldiers eager to fight for the North in one of the first regiments of black troops formed during the Civil War. They were the 54th from Massachusetts, led by Colonel Robert Gould Shaw of a prominent Boston family of abolitionists.
In 1863, after the Emancipation Proclamation, the American Civil War became a war to end slavery. And the people who were most committed to that, for many had the most direct connection to that fight, were African Americans.
In July of 1863, under the cover of darkness, the 54th stormed Fort Wagner in South Carolina. The regiment was defeated with nearly half of the troops killed or wounded, including Shaw. But that moment, the regiment's ferocious battle for liberty, would be memorialized in remembrances, testimonials, and even in Hollywood in the 1989 film Glory. Some 20 years after the battle, renowned sculptor Augustus Saint-Gaudens began work on the memorial that now defines the regiment. After 14 painstaking years of work, his bronze monument was unveiled across from the Massachusetts State House. It depicts Shaw leading his regiment south.
I see real people when I look at the statue. They're not a type. They're not a group of faceless soldiers. They're each individual.
In Tell It With Pride, an exhibition created by the National Gallery of Art and now at the Massachusetts Historical Society, we find the stories behind the monument. For Saint-Gaudens, an internationally known artist, the sculpture was a labor of love, says curator Ann Bentley.
Do we know why he was so obsessive about this?
That was just the way he worked. His attention to detail and his desire for accuracy, his gift for modeling. After the monument was unveiled, he wasn't terribly happy with it. He continued to tinker for several years.
It is a piece rich in detail, featuring the stoic and determined faces of 23 men marching off to battle, guns hoisted, packs tugging, and fabric folding. And then there is the unseen.
There are several series of 4 deep heads that are behind the horse that you will never see. You could get up on a ladder and look down, you'll never see the faces. But we've been loaned modern casts of these sets of faces, so this is one place you can come and actually see the hidden heads.
But they are not the real soldiers. Long after the war's end, Saint-Gaudens hired some 40 models for inspiration. So Tell It With Pride introduces us to many of the regiment's real men. Well represented in photographs they themselves commissioned, says Society librarian Peter Drummey.
It's wonderful to see people who were proud of their uniforms and the accoutrements of their ranks as non-commissioned officers, their instruments as musicians. Often they'd pay to have the photograph hand-colored to bring out the gold of their buttons or their belt buckle or the different colors of parts of their uniform.
Here we also find their letters, records, and medals, not to mention artifacts from the Shaw family, who was insistent that the monument not focus solely on the fallen leader, which had been Saint-Gaudens' original intent.
He figured this was his chance to get an equestrian statue made, because that's the goal for classic sculpture, an equestrian monument. And so that's what he proposed to the family. And the family was just appalled. They wanted him to concentrate on the strong bond that Shaw developed with his men and how proud he was of them. And they wanted that to be visible in this monument.
It is. And for their perpetual march, it endures.